Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving headfirst into a situation that's definitely got people talking, especially in the gaming world. We're looking at why two very senior execs left a company literally days before their huge new product launch.
And the timing, like you said,
Yeah.
it's everything here. This isn't your standard job change.
No.
When people this high up leave this close to a launch, well, it tends to mean something. History shows it often points to bigger issues may be hidden away.
Exactly. So that's our mission today. Connect the dots. We'll dig into who left Build a Rocket Boy, when and why this timing is, frankly, raising so many questions.
Right.
And we'll look at some historical parallels too, see if similar situations in the past can shed some light. We want to get you up to speed quickly on what this could mean for the company and their game, MindsEye. Let's unpack it.
Okay.
So what actually happened? Well, reports are surfacing that two really key people at Build a Rocket Boy are out. The chief financial officer, the CFO, and the chief legal officer, the CLO. And the kicker is the timing. This all seems to have come out just about a week, maybe slightly more, before MindsEye is supposed to launch.
And how did this info get out? Well, it sounds like it started on, professional networking sites, LinkedIn, places like that where people update their jobs.
Okay.
The CLO's departure was apparently pretty public, but the CFO's, well, you needed to be connected to them to see that update, it seems.
Right.
And then this was apparently confirmed by folks still at the company and even some who used to work there.
Okay, but the timeline around the announcements it's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The word is the CLO might have actually resigned, like months ago.
Months. Wow.
But the public notice, the update online, happened basically the same day as the news about the CFO leaving broke.
Yeah.
And the CFO's exit, that seems much more sudden, like it really came out of the blue for a lot of people, even inside the company.
So announcing both departures together,
Right.
Why? Why then?
Exactly. That's the big question everyone's asking. Was it just a coincidence?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe some kind of legal thing, an embargo tied to the launch? But the feeling, from people watching closely, is that it's probably more realistically linked to, well, stuff happening within the business, internal issues.
Right.
Or maybe even a reaction to community feedback or media stuff about the game or the company. There's even a theory, apparently coming from inside, that putting both announcements out now is a conscious move.
A conscious move? How?
To publicly distance themselves from the business, like get their names off the masthead right before this ship potentially hits an iceberg.
Okay, so let's talk about why this matters. It's not just executives changing jobs, right? Why is this specific timing seen as such a big red flag?
Well, think about who these people are. CFO, CLO, these aren't junior roles.
Definitely not.
They're senior leaders. They have the keys to the kingdom, financially and legally. They know the company's real health, its prospects inside and out.
Right. They see everything.
Exactly. They have that privileged view. And that's why leaving right before a massive product launch, especially the first big game launch for this company, it just feels wrong. Counterintuitive.
Yeah.
If MindsEye was about to be this huge success story, this amazing game everyone's been waiting for, they'd want to be there, wouldn't they?
You'd think so. For the victory lap, the bonuses, the recognition.
Precisely. So their leaving suggests, well, it suggests they might know something the rest of us don't. Something about the company's real situation or maybe the game's readiness that makes staying look like a bad bet.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? Like the ship analogy people are using. You expect the captain and officers on the bridge when the ship sails into port. But this feels more like they're, jumping ship or maybe hopping onto a life raft just offshore instead of riding it in.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's that visual that makes you think, hang on, what's wrong? Like seeing billowing smoke coming out of the building. You don't just ignore that. You figure there's probably a fire. It's applying that logic here.
And it all circles back to that fundamental question. Why leave now? Why would people with that level of insight, who presumably believed in the project at some point, choose this exact moment to walk away? What do they know? What are they expecting? And it's really important to stress this kind of thing. It's not unheard of. While the Build a Rocket Boy situation has its own specifics, this pattern, executives leaving just before bad news hits, we've seen it before. History has examples.
Yeah, looking back really helps frame this, I think. Like WorldCom back in 2002, huge accounting fraud.
Massive.
And their CFO didn't just leave. He was basically booted out as it all started coming apart. And then, boom, reports said everything went upside down. The departure was like the first domino.
Right, or Toshiba, 2015, CFO resigns. Shortly after,
Hmm.
news breaks they'd overstated profits by billions. For years,
Wow.
his exit came just before the whole thing blew up publicly. And Freddie Mac in 2003, similar story. CFO fired, though they tried to spin it as a resignation first, right after they found out earnings had been understated. Again, exec leaves, then bam, financial mess revealed.
And then there's the more recent and sad story with Bed Bath & Beyond. Company was in deep financial trouble, heading for bankruptcy. The CFO, Gustavo Arnal, got tangled up in that whole meme stock controversy, stock manipulation claims.
Yeah, that was messy.
And his tragic death happened before the full extent of everything was really clear. But again, the CFO role was right in the middle of financial crisis and questionable stuff.
And even in gaming, look at Rocksteady. The founders, Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker, they left months before Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League launched.
I remember that. Seemed odd at the time.
Very odd. These guys were rock steady. They'd been working on that game forever. So people were asking, why bail now? Right before the finish line. Definitely raised eyebrows.
And you can't really talk about execs jumping ship before trouble without mentioning Enron, right?
Oh, Enron, the classic example.
Yeah, one of the biggest corporate frauds ever. And guys like Jeffrey Skilling, the CEO, resigned just before the whole house of cards collapsed. And the point made about Skilling is he knew. He knew the whole thing was phony, all those complex financial tricks like, what was it, trading weather, booking future profits way too early.
Yeah, incredibly complex, deliberately opaque stuff.
He saw it couldn't last. He wanted out before it blew up in his face.
Now, we absolutely have to be clear here. Nobody is saying Build a Rocket Boy is Enron.
No, definitely not.
That's not the point. Enron is just a very famous, very dramatic example of the pattern. Executives see the disaster coming from the inside, and they get out to avoid being caught in the wreckage.
Right.
The takeaway isn't the scale, it's the signal, the timing of the departure. And history shows that signal is usually a pretty reliable indicator that something's wrong.
Okay, so let's bring it back to Build a Rocket Boy in MindsEye. Applying that historical lens, what's the main theory circulating now?
Well, the dominant idea, the one being discussed as, possible, maybe even likely, is something like this. The company poured a ton of money, potentially squandered a lot of investors' money into this big, everywhere, anywhere project.
Their ambitious platform idea.
Yeah, and maybe those funds are now largely gone. On top of that, there's the worry that MindsEye itself just isn't ready, or maybe isn't shaping up well, and isn't expected to be received well, which could mean the company struggles badly post-launch, maybe even goes belly up.
And if that's the internal reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can totally see why a CFO or CLO would head for the exit.
Absolutely.
If you're the finance chief and the company tanks financially, that doesn't look good. If you're the legal chief and there are lawsuits, bankruptcy. You're right in the thick of it.
You don't want that on your resume.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the one answering the question, so it was your fault the company failed.
Yeah, exactly. Getting out beforehand kind of washes your hands of the immediate fallout.
Now flip that. Imagine the opposite.
Yeah.
If MindsEye was genuinely tracking to be a huge smash hit, maybe even a GTA 6 competitor like some hoped,
Yeah.
those executives would have every reason to stay. Think of the upside, the success, the stock options maybe, the industry praise. They'd be heroes.
Right.
Their leaving strongly suggests they don't see that rosy picture. They likely see something much, much worse.
It's logical, but, despite these signs, there are people, especially those really hyped for the game, maybe they've pre-ordered, who are just brushing this off, calling it haters or conspiracy theories. They just want the game.
And that's a common reaction, isn't it? We see it all the time. People get so invested in wanting something to be good, wanting to believe,
Yeah.
that they kind of put on blinders. They ignore signals that contradict what they want to happen. Remember the hype around that game, Abandoned?
Oh, yeah. That was wild.
Despite so many red flags, so many signs it wasn't what people thought, a lot of folks chose to believe the hype. Sometimes the desire just overrides the evidence right in front of you.
So putting it all together, the assessment from those connecting these dots seems pretty stark.
It does. Based on these signals, particularly the exec departures, the feeling is there's a very high chance, maybe someone speculatively put a number on it, like 98% chance that this launch could be, well, troubled. A dumpster fire was the colorful term used. And only a tiny chance, that remaining 2%, that it pulls off a surprise success. It's an assessment based purely on interpreting these actions through the lens of past events.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive. We've looked at these pretty surprising departures, CFO, CLO, right before the Build a Rocket Boy launch. We've talked about why that timing is setting off alarms.
Hmm.
And we've looked at history at cases like WorldCom, Enron, Rocksteady, where similar exits really did signal major trouble ahead.
That's right. And while we don't know the future for sure, nobody does. The pattern is clear. Senior execs with inside knowledge leaving at a critical moment like this. It's a significant signal. And historically, it's rarely a good one.
Yeah. And maybe that leaves us with a final thought, for you listening. If just connecting these visible dots, execs leaving before a launch, can give us such potentially strong clues about what's really going on.
Right.
What other small details, other public actions, and other companies or just other situations you see might be signaling something important? How much is out there to see if we just, pause and look for the smoke?
Yeah.
Maybe take a moment to connect those dots yourself.